as I've traveled the Muslim world and met with communities of Muslims in also non-Muslim countries, more and more I see that there is similar trends. So instead of seeing the world as, oh, there's a very different situation here and a very different situation there, yes, there are differences, but the common trends are too common and we have to observe them. And if you don't understand a problem, you cannot work towards a solution. So I want to identify in this brief talk at least 3 categories of Muslims that we have to be aware of. Of course, we're all one ummah, inna hadhihi ummatukum ummatan wahida, but it's good to understand segments within the ummah. And the way I would like to divide these segments today is by way of their relationship with Islam. So, like if you think of Muslims not by their ethnicity or by their school of thought, but you think of a Muslim in terms of their relationship with Islam, I'm going to offer you 3 categories. So the first category, and I think the most important category, I like to call them Muslims on the edge. Muslims on the edge. So this is inspired by an ayah, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ. Right? So among people, there's somebody who worships Allah on the very edge. So these are Muslims that they may be born in a Muslim family, they may have been raised in a Muslim family, but they are very much a part of the modern world. And many of their ideas have been influenced by university, media, business, the outside world, to the point where their connection with Islam is reduced to my parents are Muslim, or we have Eid, or in Ramadan I'm not supposed to eat in front of my mother, or something. Like their relationship with Islam has been reduced to almost nothing, but they still identify themselves as Muslim. A lot of their practices, a lot of their life priorities, life habits, they don't seem to be corresponding to Islam. And this is similar to, there are lots of Christians in the world who identify themselves as Christian, but only in the sense that they belong to the Christian civilization. So they would call them civilizational Christians. So there's a growing population of Muslims that are civilizational Muslims. And when you speak about Islam, or their attitudes towards Islam, the answers are very similar. And the attitude is, look, religion is a personal thing. You can have your Islam, I have my Islam. In your Islam, you pray 5 times, good for you. In my Islam, I have my connection to God is in my heart. He knows what I feel. So, this is not something that you should be forcing on me. I can figure it out for myself. And slowly but surely, this category of people, they're good people. I'm not, as we hear that, it sounds disturbing to a practicing Muslim. These are good people. But they never really had a real reason to practice their religion because their religion was only given to them as a culture. And because the culture of the world changed, they can say, well, I don't talk like my mom or my dad or my grandfather used to. I don't use the same technology as them anymore. So I don't have to follow the same religious practices. That's for the older generation. Times have changed, right? So this is a very large population of Muslims. Sometimes they have very serious doubts about Islam itself, but they don't say it. And they don't say it because if they say it, their mother will have a heart attack. So they keep it inside. Their mother will say, go Jum'ah time, Jum'ah time, Jum'ah time. So they'll go to Jum'ah and they're sitting there, why am I sitting here? It doesn't make any sense. I just want to get back to work. But I'm here because my mom or my dad or my brother or whoever, or everybody from the office is going, I'll go too, but I don't really care. So these are the Muslims on the edge. And this is a very, very large population of Muslims. They're a very large population of Muslims. Okay. The second category is Muslims seeking answers. These are Muslims who used to be on the edge, like the first group, but something woke up inside them and they decided, no, I want to be consciously Muslim. I want to know about my religion. I feel like this is the truth and I want to understand it better. The problem with this group of Muslims is that they wish to learn about Islam, but because they're coming from the edge, the language they speak, the language that they're used to, the culture that they're used to is almost like the non-Muslim cultures. So they have a very hard time adjusting in Islamic environments. So even when they want to learn about Islam, they feel a little bit awkward coming into a masjid and sitting in a halaqah. Because they've never sat in something like this before. This is not their scene. They're very comfortable in the lobby of a hotel. They're very comfortable even at a bar. But they're a little bit awkward inside the masjid or the Islamic convention. Or if they see too many beards and too many hijabs, they get a little intimidated. Like, these guys are all much more Islamic than I'm just starting, and they're already super level 10, and I'm basically at 0. So they feel like they don't know where to begin. They also feel like the rest of the Muslims who are practicing, they judge them a lot. So even though they want to learn, they feel judged, and they feel they don't fit. So they are left with only one choice. They're going to find their Islam online. So instead of finding Islam physically in a masjid, in a halaqah or somewhere else, they're going to go online and search and find videos. And then, of course, whoever they end up liking, they'll watch more and more of their content. That's what's happening with this second group. So the first group was Muslims on the edge, and the second group is Muslims that are seeking. Muslims that are seeking. Now, there's a third group. This third group, and there are more groups, but I'm only talking about 3 groups. There are many more groups, but I wanted to focus in this talk. So the third group, I will say, is Muslims with harsh views. This is what I will call them, Muslims with harsh views. So what happens is somebody was seeking, and they found online somebody who's teaching Islam, and they started, hey, this makes sense. And they started listening to them and listening to them and listening to them. And when they listened to them, they said, this is the right Islam. This person has the right aqidah. This person has the right understanding of Sharia. They have the right understanding of Sunnah. So they give their complete trust to this the person they're following, this influencer online, the sheikh online, whoever, or a group. And then they developed a view that this is the right way and everybody else is wrong. Everybody else is going to Jahannam. These are the only people that are saved. And it's on every issue. It's not even like overall, on every single issue. So it could be like, for example, they develop an idea about how long the beard should be. Tulul lihya, for example, right? Now, if somebody doesn't fit their definition of the length of the beard, they are hatab Jahannam. They are made for, this is a inkaru sunnah, this is tariqus sunnah, this is, and maybe even, wajibul darb, something. Like, they're going to develop those harsh views. Their views could be about the rights of the wife. There could be about the beard. It could be about clothing. It could be about the definition of halal and haram. It could be anything, but they start developing very, very harsh views. And because they develop harsh views, these people are not fun to live with. So they develop a lot of problems in their family and among their friends. They become more and more isolated, okay? Because their family sees them as too extreme. So now I've given you 3 groups of people. These 3 populations exist in the millions and millions and millions. This is not one person. Each one of these is hundreds of millions of people. So understanding this and what to do about this is a very serious global problem, right? And sometimes when people talk about global problems and global solutions, we think about government level, policy level, funding level issues. But at the end of the day, actually, the global structures are made up of individuals, and individuals have these tendencies. So I'm going to suggest some things for each of these groups. I don't have the complete solution. I don't think anyone does, but we can think about some solutions for each of these groups to help with this problem. So the first group, if you remember, was Muslims on the edge. There are 2 things I think we can do. Muslims on the edge should be engaged in conversation about why they are Muslim to begin with. Why they're Muslim. Because right now the answer for them is, I am Muslim because my parents were Muslim. That's their answer right now. Okay? Or their answer is, I don't know. I just, maybe because my luck was I was born in Malaysia, that's why I'm Muslim. If I was born in India, maybe I would have been Hindu. If I was born in England, maybe I would have been Christian. Like, so they're just saying, I don't really know why. For that category of people, we need to create material resources that even if they're not seeking it, because they're not trying to learn about Islam. So they're not going to come to Islam. Islam has to go to them, right? This is basically tabligh, getting the message out to them. Okay, because if you invite them to a conference, or you invite them to a program, or you invite them to a halaqah, no thank you. Not interested. That's not what I want. So we have to figure out a way of getting something to them onto their device, into their ear, onto, in some way in the media. And the subject matter should be, I think it should be revolving around the foundations of Islam. Meaning, why should we believe Islam is the right religion? Why should we believe Quran is from Allah, from God? Why do we believe this is the correct way of life? Why is this in the Dina and Allah al-Islam? Why? And it needs to be presented in language that doesn't sound Islamic. This is important. Because if you sound Islamic, they change the channel in their brain. They don't want to hear Islamic language because they're not interested. So the message has to be presented, but it has to be presented in language that they can understand and relate to. So it's not the language of the halaqah, and it's not the language of the khutbah. Because that language is for Muslims who are already ready to listen. These are people that are not ready to listen. Example of this from the Quran is Surah Al-Adiyat. When Allah revealed وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا. Al-Adiyat, everybody knows here, you guys are more knowledgeable than I am, is about horses. This is about horses running fast. It has nothing to do with akhirah. It has nothing to do with tawheed. It has nothing to do with al-a'mal al-salihah. Nothing. There's no indhar or tabshir. There is no wa'id. There is no da'wah ila Allah. There's no tawheed. Nothing in the ayat of wal-'adiyati dhabha, fal-muriyati qadha, fal-mughirati subha, fa-atharna bihi naq'a, fa-wasatna bihi jam'a. 5 ayat that have no message in them except horses running. That's it. But you know what? For the Arabs of that time, they loved horses. So when they hear وَالْعَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا, they're watching the trailer of an action movie. Oh, whoa, what? عَادِيَاتِ ضَبْحًا. I like it. مُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا would tell me, then what happened? فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ what? فَأَثَرْنَ بِهِ نَقْعًا فَوَسَطْنَ بِهِ جَمْعًا. So they were, Allah spoke to them in what you can call non-Islamic language. You see? And he got there, and then he gave dropped the message, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لِرَبِّهِ لَكَنُودٌ. Right? So this is actually a Quran-based strategy for people that don't want to listen. And we have to develop that kind of media where they're watching and they don't even know. Wow, this is pretty amazing. This is pretty amazing. And then at the end, you get the message. I'll give you a shaitani example of this too. Okay, a shaitani example of this is a TV show, a very famous TV show. I don't think it's running anymore. It's called House. Okay, House is about a very intelligent, brilliant doctor who works at a hospital, who no other doctors can solve the patient problem. The patient is about to die. Nobody can solve this problem. And this guy always figures out somehow what the diagnosis is. Every test has failed. Every analysis has failed. They can't find the problem. He finds the solution. And you know what? When people are about to die in the hospital, if they're Christian, then they bring the priest. If they're Muslim, then the imam comes. If they're Jewish, then the rabbi comes and everybody's praying because the person is dying. Or they're making dua, they're reciting Quran, reading the Bible, rosemaries, whatever, right? And this guy, this Dr. House, is a hardcore atheist. He's atheist. He makes fun of all these people that are praying for the patient. Okay, the whole show, several seasons, is about how stupid religion is. And how stupid people of any faith are. And how smart people, because he's the smartest one, how smart people can solve problems, and religious people are just looking for prayer because they believe in fairy tales. Okay? It is the best da'wah to atheism in years. It's amazing da'wah to atheism. But it's not a lecture by an atheist professor presenting an atheistic message. It's a really interesting, intelligent, well-produced TV show. And it's got the message embedded within. Well, we need to do the same thing. For the Muslims on the edge, we need to present the message of Islam, in a sense, without presenting the message of Islam. Right? So that's the first category. The second category, I said people that are seeking. Right? They decided they want to learn more about Islam. They're not really fitting in the masjid environment. The halaqah is too intense for them. They're going to find answers where? Online. Let me tell you the challenge with online. And this is after meeting with several scholars, even government agencies around the world. There's a problem. The problem is online, you can end up finding something very good, or you can end up finding something extremely problematic. And extremism in religion sells. Hindu extremism is very good sales. Christian extremism, good sales. Islam-based extremism, really good sales. So what happens online with extremist groups, for example, groups that wanted to have young people join ISIS, for example, around the world, they actually developed a media strategy. They showed, first we're going to make really nice videos about Akhirul Zaman. There's the Dajjal, the coming of the Mahdi, the black flag, all of this, yeah? And people really want to watch these videos. Oh, subhanAllah, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said this. And a young 17-year-old is watching this. Then they'll connect it. The next set of videos is going to be the importance of hijrah in Islam. And this kid's already watching this channel. It's like, oh yeah, hijrah, yeah, we have to make hijrah. And you have to become people of akhirah, and you have to leave dunya. And then your family is a fitna for you. And so they'll have these videos, and the first one was really small and interesting, and the next one makes you a little bit more extreme, next one a little bit more extreme, next one a little bit more extreme, until they've successfully brainwashed. After 5-6 videos, it is fard on you to pack your bags, get your passport, and make hijrah. And there's a trend. This is called a funnel. In marketing, they call this a funnel. So people that are looking for Islam online, they're looking for innocent reasons. But there are many attempts to direct them in different directions. You understand? And depending on the algorithm, if people have done their good work in marketing and building their algorithm, they can take them in any multitude of directions. I just gave you an example of violent extremism, but this could be somebody wants them to head towards one group or one jama'ah or one cult or one whatever. They can push them in that direction, right? And so the population online, or this huge population that is seeking answers, if we don't give them real solutions on the ground, then the internet is far too dangerous. It's too dangerous. And I'm a beneficiary of the internet. Like a lot of people only know me because they Googled something about the Quran and they found my videos and all of that, right? But they can just as easily find somebody else. And end up in some very crazy ideas, right? So what has to happen for this group is we have to understand what it is that they need, what it is that they're afraid of. They're afraid of being judged. They need a message that is simple so they can start at the basic steps and then go up and up and up and up and up. They're seeking, but they're not advanced yet. It's a woman. She wants to become more Islamic. She's not wearing hijab yet, but she wants to learn. She's taking her first steps. If she walks in and people just say, you have to wear hijab, it's fard on day one, she's going to walk away and never come back. You just lost a customer, right? You have to develop that customer until they are ready, right? So, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was given the example in Surah Al-Fath at the end, right? أخرج شطأه فآزره فاستغلظ فاستوى على سوقه. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is describing Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the Sahaba like a plant that grows and matures. These are like very weak plants, very delicate plants that need to be grown and matured. So we have to create those kinds of social environments and learning environments where people that are seeking can actually meet knowledgeable people, they can meet others, they can meet a support group, and they can develop that easily. and they don't feel intimidated that everybody else is so much more Muslim than me, I feel out of place. They are in need of this. And we are in need of providing that kind of an environment for such groups. Even if we cannot do this inside of the masjid or inside of the Islamic university, maybe we can do this at a cafeteria. Maybe we can do this in the university lounge. Maybe we can use this in open, safe spaces, public spaces. But those kinds of spaces need to be created and encouraged so that those people can also have a chance. I was really happy to see that when I had done my story night event here, and I had done a large story night event in Jakarta, a lot of people came, a lot of men and women came. So many of them were non-Muslims. And many of them were not observing hijab and all of that. And I was happy to see them. Some people saw that and said, Astaghfirullah, women are not wearing hijab. And I was like, Alhamdulillah, those women that are even not wearing hijab are here. Even because they're taking a step. We don't know where they are in their journey. So this is a solution that is needed, because if we don't provide that solution, the internet will provide its own alternatives. So it's a very dangerous track to go down. Now the third one. I think this third one is where this office and institutions like these can really help. This third one. Muslims with harsh views. Muslims with harsh views believe they understand the sunnah. They believe that hadith says this. This is what it means. And they don't have a lot of deep knowledge, because you can only have harsh views when you don't have deep knowledge. And they believe that anybody who disagrees with them doesn't have real knowledge. What needs to happen with those kinds of groups is, instead of targeting the group, you have to target the issue. If it's lihya, if it's isbal, if it's musiqa, whatever issue it is, whatever the issue is, you have to, as scholars in the country, they have to get together and look at all the different views on it, and get even, representatives of the different views, and have a discussion about the evidences, and present the solution to the ideas, and say, this is what the scholars have said, this is our attitude towards each other, these are the differences that have existed for this long, the people who hold this view are this, the people who hold this view are this, and we respect all of them. If something is based on ijma', it's ijma', we can't change that. But if there's an issue that's mukhtalaf fihi, then we should not pretend that there's ijma' when it's mukhtalaf fihi. It's mukhtalaf fihi, And if we can create those kinds of discussions and then target especially the harsh audience and say, by the way, this thing that you think is daleel is not daleel. Or you're saying this is absolutely sahih, actually it's not, it's da'if. Like, for example, a narration example of this is, because marriage and divorce are sensitive topics, right? A lot of times people develop very strong views about it without looking at the situation. Sometimes divorce is, because there are muftis sitting here, you guys know, sometimes divorce is the best solution. It's a rahmah from Allah. Other times, you're rushing to judgment. But if you just start with inna abghad al-halali indallah at-talaq, if you start with that, first of all, the narration is not that strong. And the Quran is saying, وَإِن يَتَفَرَّقَا يُغْنِ اللَّهُ كُلَّ مِنْ سَعَتِهِ. Yeah? So what are we doing? We take this narration, which is not even sahih, it's actually a lot of kalam on this hadith, and we put it above even the ayat of the Quran. And then somebody who's coming with a real problem in their marriage, we're saying to them, إِنَّ أَبْغَضَ الْحَلَالِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الطَّلَاقِ. Now this is a lack of hikmah. And this is where ulama have a big role to play, a huge role to play, because a lot of times these narrations are being misused to create more and more and more harsh views. And that is a misrepresentation of Sharia, it's a misrepresentation of the Sunnah, and the only people who can defend against that are the scholars of the Sharia and the scholars of the Sunnah. And that's where even people like myself are not even qualified. We're not even at that level. But the muftis and the fuqaha, they have to now expose these conversations. Sometimes, I'll be frank with you, sometimes I get a chance to have dinner with a mufti or a group of muftis. And we have just sitting chatting on the dinner table, and we have the most amazing conversation, right, on some issue. And I say, man, the public doesn't know. You guys are so cool. Because when you come in front of the camera, you're just, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, and you're very formal, and nobody knows that you actually have some really incredible insights and discussions and debate. Those dinner conversations that you have with each other on issues, they need to be filmed. I'm telling you. When that stuff gets filmed and that stuff gets out, the public changes. Then harshness extremism starts going down. So those are just some thoughts about the trends that I've seen in many Muslim countries and in many Muslim communities. And I'm almost sure that those same trends, some level of that exists here too, because it's a worldwide problem. It's not specific to Malaysia, it's actually worldwide. And there is something that we can do to address that and to help the Ummah come closer and closer to one another and actually become Ummatan Wahida, like Allah Azza wa Jal says. So those are just some few thoughts that I wanted to share. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.